What if I told you, on a day dedicated to love, the streets of Chicago in 1929 were stained with blood? An eerie silence hovered over the city, a prelude to a massacre that would echo through the annals of crime history. In the heart of this bustling metropolis, a fierce rivalry brewed between two notorious figures, Al Capone and George "Bugs" Moran. The Prohibition era had turned Chicago into a battleground, with gangsters vying for control of the city's illicit trade. Bootlegging, gambling, and prostitution rackets were the lifeblood of these criminal empires, bringing in millions of dollars. It was a time when lawlessness reigned, and violence was the currency of power. As tensions escalated, so did the stakes. Capone, a prominent gangster known for his ruthless tactics, was constantly at loggerheads with Moran, his fierce adversary. Their struggle for dominance was a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. It was a war that would be fought not in the shadows but on the city streets, turning them into a bloody battlefield. On that fateful Valentine's Day, Al Capone decided to make a bold move, a move that would forever mark the history of Chicago's crime scene. In the morning light of February 14, 1929, 7 men associated with Bugs Moran were lined up against a wall in a garage. The air was thick with tension, anticipation palpable. As the city of Chicago began to stir, a sinister plot was unfolding in the confines of this nondescript Northside garage. These men were not just any men. They were members and associates of Chicago's Northside gang, rivals of Al Capone's notorious Chicago outfit. On that fateful morning, they found themselves caught in the crossfire of a power struggle for control of the city's organized crime during the era of Prohibition. In an act of chilling audacity, 2 men dressed as policemen walked into the garage. Accompanying them were others, their faces unknown, their intentions deadly clear. They wielded Thompson submachine guns, shotguns, and a revolver, instruments of death that would soon silence the garage in the most gruesome way. The echo of gunfire filled the air, a symphony of terror that would forever etch this day in the annals of criminal history. Shot after relentless shot, the men were executed, their lives snuffed out in a brutal display of gangland violence. Amid the smoke and deafening noise, one man, Frank Gusenberg, miraculously survived the onslaught, sustaining 14 bullet wounds, but his survival was short-lived. Within 3 hours, he too succumbed to his injuries, taking with him to the grave the identities of his assailants. Meanwhile, miles away in the sunny climes of Florida, Al Capone had a solid alibi. The orchestrator of this bloody spectacle was conveniently out of the picture, his hands seemingly clean of the massacre that had just taken place. In less than 10 minutes, 7 men lay dead, marking the end of significant gang opposition to Capone. The brutality of the massacre shocked the city and the nation. In the immediate aftermath, a wave of public outcry washed over the streets of Chicago and beyond. The sheer audacity of the crime, the cold-blooded execution of 7 men in broad daylight, was a stark reminder of the lawlessness that had come to define the era. The massacre didn't just make headlines, it intensified the heat on mob bosses throughout the city. Al Capone, in particular, found himself under increased scrutiny. The massacre had, in effect, solidified his dominance in the criminal underworld. With his rivals in the Bugs Moran gang effectively eliminated, Capone had the city's organized crime scene firmly within his grip. However, the massacre also marked the beginning of the end for Capone. His notoriety as the country's most infamous gangster, now more than ever, made him a target. Investigations into his activities intensified, eventually leading to his conviction for income tax evasion. The once untouchable mob boss was sentenced to 11 years in prison. While the St. Valentine's Day massacre marked the height of Capone's power, it also marked the beginning of his downfall, forever etching this event into the annals of American crime history.